The HR wasn't there to help. They're actually there to hide all the racism in the university, and they're there to terminate all the minorities that complain. That's what HR is there for. You know, and it's just ridiculous. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just there for nothing. It's just there as like just to be there, just to satisfy the government requirement to make it seem as if there's a safe haven for minorities when there isn't. Because what they do, as soon as you complain, they start looking at you as the enemy. And they start pointing, you know, they're like, we're going to have to find a way to get rid of this person. They're not there to help you. They're there to protect the people in power or the whites or whatever. I mean, it's you know, and for me, knowing that the way that it is right now, if I ever was a police officer again, now that I know how it is, I just have to put up with it. Because there's nothing you could do about it. There's absolutely nothing. Because you're just going to get fired. You know, because for me, I appreciated the job. I got paid to me it was a lot of money, and I barely had to do anything. It was an easy job. And, you know, there's people in China that are working for like 25 cents an hour. I mean, they're like dirt poor over there. So for me to make all this money, and all I got to do is put up with a few, like, racist remarks, it's not that big of a deal for me. Whatever, I'll put up with it. Or I would have dealt with it a different way. I would have just, like, face-to-face just told them to shut the hell up, or we're just going to box it out or something. I mean, then they would have shut up. But knowing how it is, the EEOC and the HR is absolutely useless. It's like there for nothing. It's there. As soon as you complain, they already know that now you're like a target. They're going to get rid of you. You're like under radar. Now they put me on the radar. As soon as I complain, like everything, they just put me on the radar. Like any little thing that I did wrong, they were aiming to write me up. I had to like be perfect. Not just for like that moment, but perfect for the rest of my career. Because it stays in the back of their mind. I mean, 5 years later, they're still aiming to get rid of me. That's how they operate over there. You know, they hold grudges. Oh, this person complained to HR. Oh, you know, 5 years later, they're gonna find you making a mistake, and then they're gonna get rid of you. That's what they do. You know, because basically, like as soon as you go to HR, it's like in their eyes, you're turning against the brotherhood or the family or whatever, and they view you as an enemy. So you basically have to just put up with it and just shut up and just let it and just make your money and go home. That's pretty much what the reality is. You know.
One other question I also wanted to remind folks: this is not just random white people. You know, just no count. Old white people that gets brought up a lot. These are not 80-year-old white people in Mississippi or Alabama or Georgia. These are the white people that you call on to protect and serve. This is supposed to be Northwestern University's finest. The people, when you have a problem, there's a potential mugger, rapist, my house has been burglarized, and I need help. These are the people that you call if you're on the campus of Northwestern. Just wanted to get that in. But you said that, I guess at one point in this whole trifling, tacky ordeal where you're being terrorized, that I guess one of the human resources folks or EEOC people said that if you were black, that they might be able to offer a little bit more help. And that was a little confusing because I thought, if I heard correctly, I thought you said that you observed where the enforcement officers at Northwestern, they would, your term, racially profile. They would just go out and harass random black people and give them a ticket and stop them and all that for no reason. That would seem to me to contradict, like if black people have some sort of extra help or assistance, if racism is being practiced against them, then why couldn't these unjust incidents of quote unquote racial profiling, why couldn't these incidents be stopped immediately?
Well, I'm talking in regards to like the police officers. So like the blacks, there are more black officers than Asian officers, and there's black officers in positions of power. So there might be around 10 black officers, and like the chief is black, the commander is black, and then there's black supervisors, and then there's black officers on top of that. So they're like together to help, like, to protect each other. But for me, I'm like the only Asian, and then there's like one other the Asian that was there before me like quit and went to another department. I was like the only one there, and then they hired like 2 other new Asians that are newbies. I have nobody there like helping me, like fight, like supporting me. So basically, when you have like black officers that are in positions of power, and then you're a black person or a black officer that is experiencing racism, you just have more support because they're black too, and then they're like they're fighting for you too, and basically like they like, for example, this is something that happened at Northwestern. Like there was some white people that went around at the Northwestern students, white people went around. They paint, on Halloween they painted their faces black, and then they went around. They thought it was funny, but then there's black people that said that shit's not fucking funny. That's racist. And then they called the news and everything, and then they made a big deal out of it. I mean, it was all over the news, and they had like the president of the university held like a meeting with everybody in the university about it. I mean, they made a big deal about it, But with my incident, like nobody even cared. Like we tried to make like a meeting, and only like less than like 30 people showed up. But then for the blackface, there's like over 1,000 people showed up to support that. So basically, when it comes to blacks, they know how to help each other more. But when it comes to Asians, the Asian personality is just a lot more like submissive. So they're more likely to just put up with racism rather than fight back. You would never imagine an Asian person doing what Malcolm X did or Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. No, an Asian person just be like, you know what? It is what it is. I'm just gonna just shut up. Asian people they don't fight back. You can't imagine an Asian person being like Tupac Shakur. Black people, they know how to fight back. But then at the same time, what ends up happening is the drawbacks of it is like there's a lot of blacks in prison. I mean, it's a give and take. But Asians, they don't bond together. I mean, there's a lot of like hatred amongst Asians themselves. I mean, the Japanese don't get along with the Chinese. Chinese don't get along with the Vietnamese. I mean, they don't like each other. So the Asians are just like loners, and that's why they keep getting bullied by everybody. Not just the whites, but they get bullied by some blacks too. So, I mean, not just whites and blacks, but just everybody's like there to bully the Asian because they ain't doing nothing. They're not gonna fight back. So hey, the white person's like, you know what? I'm kind of scared of the black person, so I'm not gonna bully him because he might beat my ass. So I'll bully the Asian guy because he ain't gonna do nothing. That's typically what happens. That's why there's so much racism against the Asians in the media, and everybody thinks it's okay. I mean, look at that movie Rush Hour. You got Chris Tucker, who's a black dude, talking hella trash about the Chinese all over the damn movie. Being a racist as hell towards the Chinese in that movie. And then everybody watches that movie, thinks that's okay. Oh yeah, let's go around saying the Chinese person, let's tell them, do you understand the words coming out of my mouth, and some stupid stuff like that. So you got black people that are also seeing that and also saying, hey, let's bully the Asians. Because I'm sick of getting bullied by the whites, so now I'll just bully the Asians. I mean, that's just how it goes. So Asians are taking a lot of the damage right now, as far as what I'm seeing.
There were a couple folks who had questions, just quick comments. You said you couldn't imagine an individual classified as Asian doing what Malcolm X did, or what Dr. Martin Luther King, some of the other folks non-white people who've spoken out about racism. And I thought, well, we did have Pearl Harbor, and we did have Ho Chi Minh, Mao Zedong. I think there have been and continue to be some individuals who are classified as Asian who have had quite a bit to say about racism, white supremacy, and have even resorted to counterviolence in dealing with white people who were terrorizing them for, just because that's what they do. That was one. The second thing, and I was going to bring this up because you had a video about this as well, where you said that you felt that white people are scared of black people, and so they are hesitant, or they will not as readily abuse and bully black people the way that they would Asian people, because they perceive Asian people to be more submissive or less likely to fight back, kind of paraphrasing what you said. And I wanted to ask, how have you come to this conclusion that white people are afraid of black people? Like, how does this fear of black people manifest itself?
Well, I think a lot of it is due to the media and Hollywood. I mean, you see a lot of these movies out there, you know, with these movies like Menace to Society, or just a lot of these movies where you see a lot of people with, you know, playing like these black roles, playing like these very violent, you know, these roles, you know, and how they're robbing people, stealing or doing whatever. I mean, even that movie Crash, you know, I mean, even Ludacris was mentioning that in the movie, you know, like that people's minds are conditioned, you know, to basically, like, the way that they portray the blacks in the movies is portraying them a lot of times as criminals, you know, and then when you keep watching those movies over and over again, it just makes you, it's just like the same thing that I was complaining about Rush Hour and how it made the Chinese look. It just made the Chinese look weak and just like they're the ones that get shit on. But with the blacks, you see all these movies, they're putting blacks in roles where they're committing all this crime. So then we keep watching all this stuff, and then you see it blasted all over the news, because that's what they do. I mean, they go into the black communities and they'll report all the crimes in the black communities. But then when it comes to like the white communities, they suppress all the crime. They act like nothing happened. You know, so
right. I understand that point, but I guess let's see if I can pitch it this way. When you say scared of black people, right? Like when someone says, "Well, I'm scared of spiders," right? I know what that response looks like. There's a spider right there. The person who says, "I'm afraid of spiders," they run out of the room. Oh my God! They hop on a chair. They're trying to get as far away from the spider as they can. Someone who says, "Well, I'm afraid of crowds." When they are close to a crowd or near a crowd, they shut down. Same with the spider. They're not able to function. Like they need help. They need someone to maybe hold their hand and get them away from the crowd so that they feel safe, so that they can function. Like I have seen a fear response in people. With white people, even if they are afraid, and I've heard a lot of white people who say that they are afraid or intimidated or scared of black people, I haven't seen any evidence that this quote unquote fear causes whites to shut down. What I've seen is their response goes way over the top, not just bully, but Renisha McBride, Jonathan Farrell, where it's these people, it's always justified to use extreme violence in dealing with them. I was afraid, George Zimmerman, that tends to be what happens. Trayvon Martin, not that black people are excused from being bullied, but that black people are subject to extreme forms of violence because I was afraid, I felt threatened, my life was in danger, and I had to shoot this black person 40 times. Amadou Diallo. I had to shoot this black person 10 times because I was afraid. That tends to be what happens, not black people escape being bullied. Does that make sense, or are you not understanding what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying. I see your point, but what I'm saying is that like a white person, it would be very unlikely for a white person to go up to a black person and just call him an N-word. You know what I'm saying? Because they know what's coming at them. So they won't say it. You know, so that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like they won't get as much verbal, like direct verbal taunting from the white person than an Asian person would. Like a white person would feel more comfortable calling an Asian person a chink than they would saying to a black person the N-word. Or they'll feel more comfortable making fun of the Asian person's, like, the way his eyes are slanted than they would, like, making fun of a black person's, like, hair. Because they know that the black would respond, like, more aggressively. You know, like, basically, that's what I see. I mean, it's like, I mean, you see it in the women. I mean, just like the Asian women are typically stereotyped to be like just very submissive and just like very shy and timid. But then the stereotype for black women, they're very like expressive and very like fighting back verbally and even physically if they have to. That's from my experiences and what I've seen. You know what I mean? And that's basically what is. I mean, when you see the entertainment and the Hollywood, they express that too. I mean, I watched a lot of Dave Chappelle comedy, and he'd mention stuff like, you know, a white person in the middle of the ghetto, and then he'll just like lock his doors right away. I mean, he'll make jokes like that, and you know, you kind of understand those jokes because that's kind of how it is. You know, so it's kind of like based on my experiences, this is what like my understanding. Also interacting with certain white people, where they would tell me like, you know, like their thoughts and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, for example, I used to, you know, when I was the officer, one of the officers was white, and he was one of the guys that made the racial comments to me. But he mentioned to me like he'll walk his dog, and then a black person would come up to him, and then he just like put his hand on his gun to get ready in case he get robbed. You know what I'm saying? I was like, are you serious? The guy didn't even do anything. He just came up to you and asked you a question, and then you had your hand and your gun already. So I mean, they're not gonna like admit this stuff to like the whole world to know, but this is stuff that they tell me in private, stuff like that.
Fascinating. I want to make sure I get our listeners who dialed in with questions as well.